Peace and Black Power. Welcome to another edition of Baba TV House of Consciousness. It's my absolute privilege and pleasure to be here with these two mighty giants, doctors. One brother here to my left is Dr. Issa. This is the brother who allowed me to come in and the place of Brother Sarnetta when he had the panel discussion with the Irritated Genie, Red Pill, Sankofa, talking about the breakdown of Hidden Colors 4. And to my left, or right rather, is Brother Dr. Reggie. You all know him, who have an important message that they would like to bring us. Everybody just went and saw Birth of a Nation, the insurrection of Nat Turner, and I'm sure these two brothers have a lot to say on that. Who wants to go first?
Yeah, I'll go first real quick. Yeah, I just think it was a great movie. I would give it a 8.5, a 9 out of 10. I always wondered, because last night I stayed up and read about 20 reviews, and most of the mainstream white reviews had it that this movie was the worst movie ever. And I wondered why. So today I found out there were no white heroes in this movie, and a lot of white people died the way it happened historically. The name and the title of the movie, A Birth of a Nation, it's a play on D.W. Griffin's 1915 movie, A Birth of a Nation, which launched the relaunching of the KKK, and also it's the launching of what? The Fraternal Order of Police, right? The Fraternal Order of Police came out of A Birth of a Nation, right? And they are the most powerful paramilitary organization in the United States outside of the military. And they are the ones that are responsible for the protection of many of these killer cops that are assassinating unarmed black men and women. I think people historically, if you want to look into some background information on this movie, look at 3 historical figures. Gabriel Prosser, who led a armed resistance movement in 1800. Also look at Denmark Vesey. Denmark Vesey is very important because he led one in Charleston. And remember, Dalen Roof, the white guy who massacred 10 black people, well, he was doing it to get revenge back on Denmark Vesey and Nat Turner, because it was done the same month of Denmark Vesey's armed resistance movement. Also, Dalen Roof was also found in what city? He was found in Shelby, North Carolina. Why is that city important? Because that's the same city where D.W. Griffin's movie got its information from, a book called The Klansman by Thomas Dixon. Thomas Dixon was born where? In Shelby, North Carolina. Now, why is this third person that's important to understanding the background to Nathaniel Parker's Birth of a Nation? His name is David Walker. David Walker was a 19th century African revolutionary, and he wrote the most provocative revolutionary manuscript since the American Constitution in a book called David Walker's Appeal to Color Citizens of the World. This is an important book because first, it is the first time in our historiography in the United States where an intellectual is saying that the ancient Egyptians are black. That's one reason why. The second reason, this is in 1828, he writes a whole treatise on who the ancient Egyptians were, and that black people in the United States migrated from the east to West Africa, caught in the slave trade, and are the descendants of the ancient Egyptians. 2, it's important because many believe that Nat Turner had that book. And this book was saying that black people should rise up in the name of God and kill all white slave owners. Right? And even David Walker was later assassinated after the people told him to leave and go to Canada. He said, no, he'll die right here fighting against his enemy, and he was poisoned in 1830. All right, so the movie starts off, one more minute, it starts off with the African background, because I say that Nat Turner was a traditional juju priest. All right, he was born into that. His mother was born in Africa. Now, if there's any critique I have of the movie, that is that Nathaniel Parker, for some reason, chose not to show his mother as a typical African woman who was brought over into the slave trade. There would have been a difference in the accent, right? And it would explain that Nat Turner said most of his knowledge that made him do what he did came from his mother. So if his mother was born in Africa, she would have told him as a child who his ancestors were, what those sacred deities were, how the wars were ravaged, the inner land and the kingdom that she was taken from, the long march from the interior of Africa to those slave dungeons in West Africa, and most importantly, how she survived the Maafa, the transatlantic European slave trade. She would have told him this. Not only that, she was not the only African-born person. By 1830, 30 to 60% of all black people in this country were born in Africa or had parents who were born in Africa. So those are just some things that I think, some background information I think that people should look into. And I'll leave this up to Brother Reggie. Thanks a lot, Baba TV. Peace.
Peace, Doctor, and you have a safe travel till we meet
yes.
again, right? This is our brother. So the intellectual warfare is growing. We got lots of new partners. If you don't know me, if you're new to Baba TV, Fire Every Time, my name is Brother Reggie. They call me Dr. Reggie, but I'm your brother, Brother Reggie. My take on the birth of a nation. Film is very important to those living in the modern world. Young people are watching this film for the first time and don't know anything about slavery. They don't know anything about our fight on the plantations, our fights for liberation. There are young people, 14, 15-year-old, that are just watching this, that's just joining our movement. The movie is titled, like the brother said, by D.W. Griffith's original Birth of a Nation, which had a lot to do really with the birth of the Klansmen and the birth of the prison industrial system. The question is, for this movie is, he entitled it A Birth of a Nation. He's talking about our nation. He's looking at a time period and say, is it time? And is this the actual birth of our nation? Meaning that we have to fight for our nation, right? So it's a dramatic film. I give it a 10 because it's not what other people say about it, and it's not the minor points. The fact of the matter is that the film was completed and the film resonates. The only thing that the film does not do is pattern out the suffering of white folks. And I think that that is very interesting, because we didn't see the white people with their necks cut, with them hacked to death. We only saw glimpses of that. What we did see is the terror vision on our people. So the film is important to me is because I don't have to feel any sympathy for the oppressor. I have to care about what was done to me. Right, the rapes of at least 2 women on the screen by white slave plantation and or slave enforcers. Right, the rape. What does the pain mean to us rather than the pain of white people? Some people think, well, you know, you didn't show the white people dying. That's not the point, because they did die. The point is, does your blood matter? Does your blood matter? Not their blood, but our blood. Now, historically, the film covers a period of Nat Turner's rebellion, but there were other rebellions that people should know about. There is the Quilombos in Brazil. You got to understand that the slave trade was started with the Spanish and the Portuguese. The Africans in Brazil created free societies, separating themselves from the European and fighting them. And Zumbi of Palmares is the last of a series of kings that were more than Maroons. They more than separate themselves. They built an African culture in the New World. People do not know that in New York City, in 1741, you had the New York City conspiracy. It was done by what they called the Cuba people. In New York City, it was an uprising. There were several uprisings in New York City. That's important. And this uprising came before the Haitian Revolution. Before the Haitian Revolution, in 1759, is the Stono Rebellion. And then there's the Haitian Revolution, right? So there's a series of rebellions and uprisings that happen in America that people need to know about, because we need this to have a reason for a birth of a nation. Like, if it's not meaningful to you, then we won't have a nation. You got to contrast this to the American Revolution, right? And all of these Thomas Paine and all of these others, give me liberty or give me death. You have to contrast it. What do you say? But we've had people like Dr. Martin Delaney, like David Walker, right? And we've had modern people, El-Hajj Malik El-Shabazz, and prior to him, Garvey and others. All of this falls in a theme that if the task is not completed for a generation, another generation will either come and rewrite, stimulate, agitate us to organize and to move. So this is a historical moment. I wish Dr. John Henry Clark was alive to give us his take. But they were alive when we saw the Massachusetts 54 for the movie Glory. They were alive for Goodbye Uncle Tom. They were alive for a lot of these other movies. Now the task is up for us to connect the dots for our people, to awaken our people, to get our people moving in a direction of a plan. What is absent of all of this, Brother Baba, and to your audience, is a plan. What is the best plan for African people? We've had the Million Man Marches. We've had several of them. We know about the Prophet Noble Drew Ali. We know even the old Nation of Islam, Elijah Muhammad and Malcolm X and the OAAU. What is the best path for us? In my book, the best path for us is to now take these cities that we are the majority of population. That is the new uprising. Take the cities that we are the majority populated, and then we can write our own laws, our own legislation, right? We don't know the power that we have. So with these short words, I would say, in these short words, I would say, go and see the movie with an open mind. It is painful, but what does your blood mean to you? And are you the chosen of this generation to continue our work? Dr. Frederick Douglass, an important member in his generation, said these words: if there is no struggle, there is no progress. Those who profess to favor freedom yet deprecate agitation are men and women who want the crops without plowing up the ground. They want the rain without the thunder and lightning. They want the oceans without the awful roars of its many waters. This struggle can be a moral one or a physical one, but it must be a struggle. Power concedes nothing without a demand. It never did, it never will. Find out just what these people will quietly submit to, and you have found out the exact measure of injustice and wrong which will be opposed upon them. And these will continue until they are resisted with either words or blows or both. The limits of tyrants are prescribed by the endurance of those whom they oppress. That statement of Frederick Douglass is a statement that Dr. John Henry Clark and Dr. Leonard Jeffries and Professor Small forced upon those that they spent their time with. In our darkest hour, know that if there is no struggle, there is no progress, right? And you're not going to get it without struggle. Because power concedes nothing without a demand. It never did and never will. So I hope this was informative. It's always a pleasure for me to speak on Baba TV, Fire every time. And go see this movie. Peace.